Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. My name's Cliff Weiner. I'm president of POA. First on our agenda is we're going to stand for the pledge and a moment of silence for our first responders and our military personnel. Thank you. Please be seated. Please, if you have a cell phone, please turn it off or put it on vibrate so we're not disturbed. Next is the reading of our minutes from our what meeting? September meeting that we had here by our Secretary, Rep. Benson.
Good evening, everybody. In the train's true form, being from Virginia and then upstate New York, I said, I'm going to wear my shorts tonight still, even though I know it's cold out today. So hopefully that makes you even feel warmer yet. All right, the way we normally do the meeting minutes is we just sort of cover some of the highlights of our previous meeting. And as Cliff said, what we wanted to do was cover the last meeting we had down here since we're going to a quarterly status of running meetings down here. So that meeting, which was held on the 15th of September, the highlights we want to do is basically if there's any questions that came from the audience, which we really didn't have any worth bringing up at this point in time, but it's more about the speaker. So the speaker we had was Joe Rogas. He was the head of the union for the Coleman prison guards. And then we had two other Coleman law enforcement officers along with him. Mr. Rogas said that he represents the workers and has been at Coleman Prison since it opened in 1995. He told the audience about the current issues where they don't have enough guards at this point in time, and that they let the community know about that back in by forming a picket line back in June of last year. Okay, can you hear me okay now? All right. So anyhow, he's been with the Coleman Prison since 1995 and said that right now, and like a lot of other positions around the country that are short, the guard system for the prisons around the United States that are federally controlled is short also. He said his main concern obviously is for the safety of the law enforcement officers in the community as far as the ones that work at the prison. Obviously, they're going to keep the level 1 prisons perfectly set up down there. And if you didn't know, there are 2 level 1 prisons, 1 level 2, and then a work farm associated with the Coleman prison. He said that the big thing is that the law enforcement officers' wages and benefits at the federal level for the guards must be increased, and that he'd also like to put a fence around the Coleman prison camp. Right now, they're paid more at a GS5 kind of a level at the federal kind of point, which is about $46,000. He said, really, to be competitive with the market out there, they should be getting around $65,000. He said that they are the whistleblowers as far as bringing anything to the attention of the community, and that they always need the community's help to inform Congress of law enforcement officer shortages and the need for better pay. Because the shortage is about 200 law enforcement or prison guards around the country at the federal prisons across the United States. At least that was as of late summer kind of time period. Hopefully it's gotten a little bit better. Some of the questions I asked were, have you heard of more lockdowns at Coleman Prison, and why is that the case? A lot of the lockdowns happen because of shortages more than anything else. Is the villages looking to buy the land and have the prison moved elsewhere? The answer, no. Too much money has been put into this prison and is federally controlled, not state or local. And said, how can we help? Can we get the governor involved? Answer, governor cannot do anything, only Congress. Please write to representatives and senators about the Coleman staffing issues. And there is a form letter available from the local 506 Coleman Facebook page if you want to get involved. And we concluded the meeting about 8:15.
Thanks, Rep. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes? Second? All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Next is our treasurer's report by our treasurer, Ash Marwa.
For the month of December, we had a revenue of $37,608, and expenses of $25,392. We ended up with a positive balance of $8,901. Since this is the month of December, this is year end also, we ended the year negative $34,138. Our operating account balance is $113,472. With that, I want to say to everybody, please become a member if you're not. Please renew your membership if you haven't done so, because your membership dues help run this organization. Thank you.
Thanks, Ash. Next is our membership report by our membership chairman, Ken Nuttall. Ken, you should know. Come on.
Thank you. As Ash just mentioned to you, the cost of defraying the bulletins in your driveways and other various costs that we have for the operation of the POA, a good portion of it all comes from membership. So we ask you to join the POA, ask your neighbors, friends, whatever, to also join. There is a benefit from it. We try to provide you the most up-to-date information on many of the issues and work towards the benefit of everybody here in the villages. As a bonus for joining the POA, we give everyone that is a new member of the POA a bonus card that is a discount card that can be used at area restaurants and businesses throughout the villages. And if you're a current member of the POA, previously, we're offering you, if you'd like to purchase one of the bonus cards for $5, and we renew them every year. So there's an opportunity with using it maybe 2-3 times, you get your money back. But we would appreciate any support that you could give us so that we again can support you as residents of the community. Thank you.
Gilbert uses it all the time at Dunkin' Donuts. I had to throw that in there. This is where I usually introduce if we have any important people or officials, and we do have a couple today. First of all, we have our district manager, Kenny Blocker, here. Kenny, stand up, please. And we have one of our assistant district managers, Bruce Brown, here. I got to tell you, I work a lot with both of these gentlemen on other things, and the cooperation is absolutely the best. And that's the only way we can get things done, with cooperation. We also have Reb Benson, our secretary, who's a member of the AAC, and Dan Warren, who's sitting at the front table, Dan Ranger, and who's on NSCUD, the board that controls our trash and water and waste. And I happen to be District 4 supervisor. I don't think there's anybody else here. Did I miss anybody? I didn't see anybody else come in. Okay, at the back table, we only have our friends from Realty Execs here tonight. The rest of them didn't show up. Thank you to Realty Execs for showing up. Okay, on April 20th, POA is going to have their 6th annual shredding event. It's for members only. Your dues must be current at the time of the event, which is April 20th. It's going to be at United Methodist Church on County Road 101, behind Publix on 466. You need a ticket. You can send an email to POA number 4 YOU@gmail.com, and if your dues are current, I will send you a ticket. If they're not, I will send you a note to tell you that they need to be brought current, and we will then send you a ticket. We will have about 1,000 cars, because that's about how many we can handle for the 4 trucks that we have, which is about 45,000 pounds of paper that we will shred that day. So it's really a good event. You get rid of all your documents, so They're not going to steal it. It's shredded on site, so you can stand there and watch them shred it if you so desire. And this is, like I said, this will be the 6th year that we have done that. So remember, April 20th, there'll be lots more information in the bulletin. We will continue to remind you. But we are up to 350 tickets already, and we still got almost 4 months to go. So it's going to fill up, I'm sure. We're going to get to 1,000 tickets, and I assume we'll get there probably by sometime in the beginning of March at the rate it's going now. So don't get shut out. We now have 4 meetings down here on the first Thursday of every month in January, April, July, and October. For this year, the only exception will be in July because July 4th is the first Thursday. So we had to take the 18th of July 2 weeks later because that was the only date that was available. That information will also be in the bulletin, but you're stuck with us 4 times during the year south of 44. As you know, our meetings are video recorded and live streamed on Facebook. So if you can't show up, you can always go back and look at it. Deb, did you want to say anything about Facebook?
Excuse me. How many of you are on Facebook? Good. How many of you have followed and liked the POA on Facebook? Oh, bad. Here's what we need you to do. When you're on Facebook next, in your search bar, go to POA of the Villages. That will take you to the POA page. If you would like, follow, and share the POA of the Villages page, then we can keep more people informed of meetings and events and information as it comes out. So if you could do that, we would really appreciate it. We have more than 2,000 followers now, and we would certainly like to see that grow. Thanks.
Thanks, Deb. Okay. Vital of Life. I've been doing this now for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. This is a program started by the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. How many people have a Vital of Life in their house? Quite a few. But there are lots that don't. So what you do is you take this tube, Vital of Life, you take these 2 sheets of paper that come with it. Second one asks for your medical information, doctors and all kinds of stuff. You fill that out, stuff it inside this Vial of Life. You put this in your refrigerator and one of the door shelves where they open it. There's 2 green stickers here. You put one on your front door and one on your refrigerator. When the EMTs show up, these gentlemen are going to go right to the refrigerator. They're not going to ask you any questions. I tell a story that I am pretty calm when it comes to these kind of things because I was a member of CERT for a lot of years and did a lot of this. When my wife had a heart attack, I was a complete mess. This was the lifesaver because I didn't have to say a word. They had all their information. Please, 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 take it. We have a whole bunch of them in the back. I promised Lieutenant Seymour, or Captain Seymour now, that I would do this until every resident had one in their house. We got a long way to go, but seconds count when you have the EMTs come. Make their job easy, save your loved one's life. Please take 2 or 3 or as many as you need. How many people have e-notifications, signed up for e-notifications? Wow, that's pathetic. You know, you can go to the district website and sign up for e-notifications, and what it does is I saw just yesterday or the day before or a couple of days ago there was a water main break. So you couldn't use water. There were the addresses that were affected were there. You need to do this. Hurricane season, you will get more information on e-notifications than you could ever want. Sometimes you'll say it's too much. We need more people to sign up. I'm not sure how far we are right with it now. It's probably 7,000 or 8,000, 10,000. But we have 60-some thousand people in the villages. That's a small percentage. So think about going on. You can check the things you want to be notified and not check the things that you don't want to be notified. So Also, on February 20th at 1:30 at Savannah Center, the Multimodal Path Discussion Group is going to have their second meeting. We used to have a multimodal path discussion group, and then it sort of faded away. I sort of have revived it for the north side of the villages that are north of 466. But we are now inviting any of the districts from south of 466. And at this meeting, there'll be someone from there'll be a supervisor from District 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 that I'm sure of. And I know district staff at their meetings will be advertising it as the board meetings come up, starting actually Wednesday at the AAC meeting. So I would love to see lots of residents. The first one we had 65 people there. 12 of them were from south to 44, which told me that they have issues here too, and things they're unhappy about with their multimodal path. So we need to hear from you so we can try and correct the things that need to be corrected, make things better. So we will be sending out an email blurb about it in our and put it in our bulletin again for February. So now it's time for the cash raffle. We give away 3 $30 prizes. Donna's got the money, I guess. So the first number is, I'm going to read the last 4 numbers. 2949. By the way, if nobody claims it, it goes to the president. 2949. I know somebody's got it. It's 2949. I can look at it all day. There it is. That young lady's got it. Next number is 2759. Oh, Dan's got that one, Donna. Dan's got that one. And then the last one's 3241. Going once. That young lady back there. Okay. All right, next on the program is what we call our open forum. You can ask any question you want as long as it's not pertaining to anything that our speakers are going to talk about, which is our fire department tonight. Those questions will be asked after their presentation. So any other question that you might have, we will try to answer it. We have an advantage today because we have some district staff here, so if I don't have the answer, they might have it. So any questions, raise your hand. Yes, ma'am.
I just heard that you spent $25,000 in December. Is that right? And
You're talking about us?
yeah.
Yes, ma'am. If that's
And
what he said.
I'm wondering. I saw the bulletin board on billboard on 301.
Yes.
Is that new, or was that a?
That has been there for 2 months,
Okay.
and we are not paying for that.
Oh, really? Wow.
Our most of our expense comes from us publishing and distributing the bulletin. The bulletin is now, just so you know, we are now, because of the expansion south of 44, about 70,000 bulletins a month. When I started as president 9 years ago, we were 49,000, I think. It's grown, and as it grows, it costs us more money, which is fine, but that's our biggest expense by far and away. It's about $185,000 a year. Yeah, $185,000 a year for last year for what we spent to publish and print the bulletin. So we always take donations if anybody wants to make a donation. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I was just curious about. I went to the meeting about the fire department. Was it in October or? And the contentious one is what I'm. And I didn't like how the POA said about the two people that voted, that didn't vote for the fire department, you know,
Are you
whatever.
talking about the Board of County Commissioners meeting?
Oh, maybe
I don't know what meeting you're talking about.
Okay, the Board of County Commission meeting.
Okay.
But when I read the POA bullet, so I was at the meeting,
Mhm.
and when I was at the read the POA account,
Mhm.
it said that two of the people caved, and I thought, I mean, that seemed strange to me that they caved.
Okay, let me explain something to you, because in July, the Board of County Commissioners had a workshop on that very topic. And there were 3 people in the audience, and all 3 of them are in this room right now. It was myself, it was Deb, who writes our bulletin, and Gilbert, who's on the end. All 5 county commissioners agreed to approve what they were supposed to approve. And at the last minute, 2 of them changed their mind because of the crowd that was there from business owners that didn't like the commercial properties had to pay more money. So what it is a commercial property entity pays $124, now $125, just like you pay for your house. POA doesn't think that's fair. Commercial property should have to pay more. We thought, and everybody else thought, it was a done deal, and then it had to go back. As it so happens, it probably worked out for the best, because now we're probably going to end up with something that's going to be easily managed and more transparent with the dependent fire district. So even though it didn't work there, we might have won anyways. So only time is going to tell.
Follow up on that. And I've been an elected county commissioner before in the past too. What happened also is that the fact that based on all the income they were going to receive, they lowered the millage rate. Once you lower that millage rate, you don't have time to bring it back up. So by all agreeing to that budget in the July workshop, and then coming back a month later and basically throwing it out the door, they were left in with a $15 million, $14 million deficit. So they dug themselves a hole by changing their mind. I'm sorry. So by changing their mind in the last minute, that left a budget deficit. Thank you.
And while you brought this up, I'm going to say this. I'll probably get myself in trouble, but it happens all the time. Whether it be the Board of County Commissioners and a budget hearing, whether it be your district governments and their budget hearings, don't come to them in September when they have to approve it because you don't like what they're going to do. When they start the process in May and June, that's when you need to attend their meetings and let the supervisors on those boards or the commissioners know your feelings, because in September it's too late. And I will tell you, as a supervisor, we will sit at our budget meeting and there will be 2 people in the audience, and then in September when we have to approve something they might not like because we might have to raise maintenance fees, we'll have 200 people there. Wrong time to come, people. Believe me when I tell you, we want to do what's best for you, but you've got to work with us too. And I'm speaking more about the boards, the district boards. So, any other questions? Yes, there's somebody, there's a lady. Right here. Right here. Oh, okay. There's a lady back there too. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I have a question. You say the bulletin is your biggest expense. You have to print it, correct? Pardon? You said the bulletin, that's your biggest expense, printing this bulletin. Why do you print it, and why don't you just do it online and save the whole thing?
We would love everybody to take it online. We've been trying now. We're up to, Deb, 4,000, okay? And we've been trying for 3 years.
But what's the purpose of it? Just do it. And you don't have to pay that money, because we're not seeing this bulletin anyway.
No, I understand what you're saying, but let me explain to you that if we can't put out the information that needs to be put out for you to have an understanding of what's happening, then it doesn't work. And if you don't want the bulletin, or you're not going to take it electronically, or you're not computer savvy where you want to get involved in that, which is Lots of older people are like that. The bulletin is the POA. I will say that. I've said that from day one. So we have to publish the information. And if you can get us a way to get 65,000 people to take it electronically, I'll be the first in line. Show me how, and I'm more than happy to do it.
Well, if they come to the meetings, they would know how to do it.
Pardon?
If they come to the meetings, they would know how to do it. I mean, nobody prints stuff anymore. Nobody. Everything's online.
Okay, well,
So why are you doing this? We
well,
don't get this bulletin.
because I think because I am the president, and I think that's the method we have to go right now, because I've tried it other ways and it hasn't worked. And I have to get the information out. By the way, I just want to say, because I introduced people that are important, and I'm going to just jump right in. Craig Estep, chairman of the County Board of County Commissioners, just walked in. Craig, stand up just so everybody can see you. Thank you, Craig, for coming. Any other that lady has a question.
Can I ask a question to the fire chief, or no? Is this all POA questions right now?
You can ask any question you
Okay.
want.
I just want to know, what is the criteria for building a new fire station? Is it based on population? How do we do it in the villages versus in the rest of the county?
Can we wait and ask that question when we take the questions from them? I am sure they will be willing to answer, and that's really a good question. I'm glad you asked that, because there has to be a methodology as how we determine when we need another fire station. And I'm sure either Mr. Blocker or Chief Twiss or one of them would have that answer. I just don't want to get into fire questions now until we get into the...
Just quickly getting back to the what the businesses pay relative to what homeowners pay. I paid $323. Is that what I paid this last time? And I think if you had a business, you paid $125. Isn't that correct?
Everybody pays $125 per rooftop. It was $124. Maximum it could be raised was $1, and it went to the $125.
I paid.
So you pay as a resident of villages. I believe it's $4.08 out of your amenity fees, which has been like that probably for the 20 years that I've lived here, anyways, or 21 years, and $125 per rooftop. Oh, that is what they wanted to raise it to. Is that what you're talking about, then? Yeah, that didn't happen. That's what they turned down. That got voted down by the 5 board of county.
Do I have some money coming back then?
Pardon?
I'm pretty confident I paid $323.
No, I don't think so. And I'd have to see your trim notice to look at it. But
And I'm going to look at it too. All right, thank you.
Anybody else?
I live in Lake County, and the fire fee that I paid on my annual statement was $225, and I think it's money well spent.
Do you live in Dabney, Newell, or?
I live in Pine Ridge.
Okay, that's Lake County, but that's also Fruitland Park. Okay, so we now have many entities that are part of the villages, like Fruitland Park, Lady Lake, Lake County, Marion County. So, and they're all a little bit different. We have another question?
Yeah. Earlier you talked about signing up for notifications. What website do you go to?
Districtgov.org.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I got through this fairly unscathed, I think, Kenny. Okay, so now let me introduce Kenny Blocker, who's going to introduce the entourage we have from the fire department. So, Mr. Blocker.
Thank you, Cliff. Thank you all for having us out here this evening. We always enjoy coming out and speaking to the POA and providing information maybe clarification information, but just communicating the topic at hand. I think it's been about a year ago we were here before talking about the new ambulance transport. So tonight we hope to bring you up to speed on what we've learned over this past year, and also talk about the dependent district and where that is headed. Two things. One is we do have another elected official in here, Dr. Kathleen Gowan. She's on our village's public safety dependent district. So welcome. That's correct. Yep. Yeah. That's right. So, and then one other thing is on your fees that you pay for fire service, the MSBU, the fire assessment's $125, but there's also an aspect of ad valorem taxes that go to that as well. We estimate about 1.3 mils of your taxable value goes to support fire for Sumter County and the village's public safety department. So you pay more than the 125. Just wanted to clarify that. Yep, that's correct. So without further ado, I did want to introduce Chief Twiss, Chief Wannon, Chief Ramage, and of course Bruce Brown, our Assistant District Manager who oversees public safety. So I want to give them an opportunity to share some information with you. And of course, we're always here for questions and answers afterwards. So, Chief?
Good evening. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Brian Twiss, the fire chief here in the Villages. I kind of wanted to echo what Mr. Blocker said. We appreciate you guys inviting us out here. We love the opportunity to update you of what experiences and what challenges and the positive forward motion the fire department's going and sharing that stuff with you. So we appreciate that. We're going to do this presentation, if you were here a year ago, kind of like we did a year ago. I'm going to have Chief Wannon come up. He's going to give you an overview of how the transport's gone since we took it over in October. I'm going to speak a little bit about the dependent district, and then I'll give you kind of a recap of the fire department over the past year, and then we'll entertain any questions. So our mission statement to you is the Village's Public Safety Department is committed to the safety of our community through the delivery of emergency services, fire prevention, and education. We will safeguard property, life, property, and the environment. The department is a very fast-growing department, and we are going to do everything we can to uphold this mission statement. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Wannon. He's going to speak about the transport service since we took over in October.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me? Was everybody here in October when I gave the presentation in October? No, okay. I have any EMS people in the room? Any ex-fire chiefs? Okay, great. So, well, what happened was you took over from, you weren't happy with the current service. You had a lot of delays, a lot of hospital issues. So you decided you wanted to start your own ambulance service and said, you know what? We could do it better. And that's what you did. We had a phenomenal first year. Not only did we have a great first year in EMS, but we're also setting the tone for other regions too. So other regions are now taking the initiatives that we started and actually adopting it, making the entire region better. So how did we do it? So our ambulance service that we took over on October 1, over the 1 year, 15,586 patient transports we did. That far exceeds what they estimated. When I got here, they told me, they were like, yeah, we're probably going to be about 8,000. And I'm like, that's a pretty dense area. And yeah, we quickly learned running about 42 to 44 patient transports a day and 60 EMS calls, how busy the system really was. But we did it. You went from long response times to now, over the entire year, our average response time from the time we get the tone to the time we get to your house, 7 minutes, 42 seconds. That's an incredible feat for any fire department. So you should be proud of yourselves. And this was by the entire team. We had strong support. When I got here, they said, we want an amazing EMS system. We want to be a premier EMS system. What do you need? And I got help from the developer. I got help from the district, an amazing administrative team that had faith in the entire EMS, and all the men and women here that stepped up and actually made and created an EMS transport system, unlike any I've ever seen. I worked 27 years for Hernando, and you've already blown them out of the water in just 1 year in what we're doing here. It is just an incredible, incredible system. I haven't seen anything like it. So how many calls do we do a day? Well, if we break it down by the hour of the day, even in the middle of the night, we're averaging 3 calls an hour, between 2 and 3 every single hour through the night. And when we get into the peak of the day, we're actually approaching 6 to 7 calls every hour on the hour. Now, anybody that's worked EMS or the hospital knows we get to the house, so we got response time. We're in the house treating. Our drive to the hospital, we get to the hospital, we transfer the patient over. Then we got to clean up the ambulance and get back into the zone. It takes about an hour, about 50 minutes to an hour round trip for us to pick up a patient, drop them off, and come back to our zone. So if you kind of look in the middle of the afternoon, every hour on the hour, we are just taking patients. That's just the EMS side of it on transports. That doesn't even include all the stuff the fire department does, all the lift assists, all the smoke investigations, vehicle accidents. So this is just transports alone. We are a very busy agency, and we still pulled it off in 7 minutes and 42 seconds. So how did it all break down? What we're looking at right here, what did we take to the hospital? About 80% of all the patients we go on, we take to the hospital. Now, they told me when I got here we would have a busy season. We said we're going to fall off, and then we have a busy season. Well, the data actually doesn't quite show that. We have a little bit of a peak as we get to like the October, November area. But for the most part, you could almost see it flat across the board. We are busy every month, all the time, nonstop. There is no real busy season for us, so we never really stop. So what do we got on the road? To serve this community of 92 square miles, we currently have 15 ambulances in our fleet. Of that, we have 10 that are staffed 24 hours a day, 24/7, distributed throughout the district to maximize our response times. Some of our busier zones where we're really falling off, where there's high volume, we have a second ambulance in the building, because what we don't want is we don't want to be out of the building where most of those calls come in, because that would prolong that life-saving time that we need to get there. For all my medical people in the room, you're talking about brain death between 10, 12 minutes. So we try to keep that ambulance in that relative area of that 4 to 8 minute response time, so we can actually get there, resuscitate you, and save brain or save heart. Our goal is to save your loved ones. So in areas that we actually have high volumes, we'll go ahead and put a second ambulance in the station, so that way when the first one's out, when the next volume is right on top of it, we have an ambulance available for you. So we strategically place all our ambulances around based on call volume. Some stations we have 1 ambulance, sometimes we'll put a second one in. But it's all to serve you to get those response times to save your life or that of a family member. We have 1 peak car. Remember how the day curve goes up where it kind of spikes up a little bit? Well, one of the things we learned when we got here is, wow, we need another ambulance by day. We don't really need another one at night. We're pretty well managing right now with what we got for now. But if you actually look everything south of 44, you could tell that's not going to last long. We're probably going to need a bunch more ambulances down on the bottom end to keep up our ability to save lives. So we have 1 that we actually put in the middle of the day to make up for that little bump that you saw in that 10 to 1 o'clock hour, and we staff that 12 hours. So to keep this fleet moving, we put about 3,000 engine hours on every single ambulance this last year. So 3,000 engine hours is about an equivalent of about 80,000 road miles on every single ambulance in our fleet. So in order to keep up the oil changes and the air filter changes and everything else involved with maintaining an ambulance, the tires, the brakes, we have to maintain a fleet of 4 reserves. So that way we can actually get them to fleet, they can do what they need to do, and we don't lose any service. So our goal is to always keep a group of reserve trucks for that exact purpose, is that way we can actually keep the fleet moving all the time and we never drop any coverage anywhere. We have 3 additional ones on order right now. As we move down south, we're going to have to start adding ambulances, and there's about a 2-year build on an ambulance. So what we have to do is we have to think, where are we going to be in 2 years? Anybody that's lived in the Villages a long time, how far does the Villages build in 2 years? I'm pretty sure in 2 years you're going to be in Hernando County. Pretty sure. You'll probably be down back close. So if it takes 2 years to build an ambulance or 2 years to build a fire truck, we have to think about that in the future. Okay, what do we need to buy today? What do we need to establish today for the service that we're going to need 2 years from now? So that's why we always plan ahead and we always try to think, okay, what are we going to need? So all of our ambulances are staffed with either a combination of either 2 paramedics on board or a paramedic and an EMT. They're all ALS, so they're all capable of administering drugs, shocking, IV fluids, and a bunch of other things that we have. When I got here, we realized that, yeah, this is a busy place. That's why we put the day car on. Also, we were having an issue with the hospitals. When we got here, there was these prolonged hospital times and transfers. So the EMS division in general, along with our crews, worked with the hospitals, meetings with the CEOs, meetings with all of the ER leadership. And together, with the fire department and the hospital, we drove those times down. Those hospitals, their 90% of the time for the last 4 months has not exceeded 25 minutes on a patient transfer, compared to when we got here, 40 minutes. Substantially different, and that's all because of the work of the leadership team and the administration working directly with all our hospitals in the region, and the whole system just got better. From the time we cross through that ER threshold, actually, the time starts when our ambulances say, we've arrived at the facility, ending mileage. So then we offload the patient out of the back of the stretcher, we go in there, and then to get us into a bed, once we transfer and get a nurse signature, the ambulance is technically available for call. So it's that time from when we arrive at the ER tarmac to the time we transfer over to an RN and they sign for the patient. So overall, we've gotten nothing but good feedback. At other places, a lot of times people call and put in complaints or issues about the service. We don't get that. Sometimes my phone rings and I'm like, okay, I wonder what happened. And it's not. It's, hey, I want to thank you. Great service. Just tell the crews how much we love them. So we are pretty much almost 90% of the calls we get into our office are all kudos to the crew. Some of them are, ones of, hey, could you check this? Can you check that? But all mostly minor stuff. We have very little actual complaints that come into our office. And everybody seems to be very happy with our service. Has anybody received our service this year by ambulance? Anybody in the room? What'd you think? How did it go? Mm-hmm. Good. I'm glad. And that seems to be what we're getting. Everybody seems to be happy. It's good treatment. We're there fast. We take care of them. And that seems to be the general consensus we get. And that's what we strive to improve. Yes, sir. Oh, okay. That's fine. That's fine. Great. Yeah, we'll answer your questions. Yeah. So overall, very happy, very good system. Where we're running our calls, the majority of them, Sumter County area, 15,586 transports from the Sumter County area. Sorry, 13,381 out of Sumter out of 15,586. We only did 10 in Marion the whole year. So Marion only requested us for mutual aid in the Marion County area 10 times. And in Lake County, we transported 2,195 out of 3,112 patients out of Lake County. And this is where I'll turn the mic over to Chief Twiss, but afterwards we'll be happy to answer your questions after the presentation. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief Wannen. As you guys can tell, Chief Wannen is very passionate about the EMS system, and he does an amazing job overseeing and running it for us. I'm going to touch briefly on the dependent district. As you guys know, this is a very new thing. We're just getting our feet under us and getting it established. You guys know, everybody knows that the VPSD, we operate under the VCCDD. The village's public safety department relies on the Sumter County to fund us. And as we all know, we had the $14 million budget cut from the vote, the September vote that was voted down. We've established the the dependent district, which we had our first meeting in December, actually December 15th. Some of the advantages to having this board, the board members are elected. It gives us the funding to efficiently deliver fire protection and EMS services. It supports our funds and our capital expenses, equipment, service level, establishes equitable and proportionate rates, fees, and charges, provides a security for the attraction of professional firefighters. That was one thing that we've had in the past, where they wanted that security, that we weren't going to have an issue like we had with the $14 million shortfall. So this provides that security and attracts firefighters. We've had several firefighters recently that have left other departments that have now come to our department. I'm happy to say we are fully staffed. That's hard for a fire chief to say in this day and age. Nothing against any other department. It's just people actually getting into the field and coming in to anything to do with fire and EMS. Even the schools are seeing a shortage of students. So to be able to stand in front of you and say that we're fully staffed, it's a very proud moment for me to be able to report that to you. Excuse me, I lost my place where I was. Establish the VPSDD will generate revenue through non-ad valorem assessment and the allowance of up to 0.57 mils in ad valorem assessments. As Chief Wannen briefly touched on, we're a little over 90 square miles. We now have, well, our large portion obviously is Sumter County. We've got Wildwood, Fruitland Park, Lady Lake, Lake County, and Leesburg. Just to touch on what we did last year, we ran approximately 25,000 calls. A little over 18, almost 19,000 of them were emergency medical related, and the other just over 6,000 was fire related. This is kind of a heat map to show you where a majority of our calls are. It may be hard to see from back there. I apologize about that, but as you can see, it's mostly Sumter County where our calls are. Our average response time, this is response time. Chief Wannen talked earlier about response time for ambulance. That's to have an ambulance at your door. This is the overall response time, whether it's a fire truck, an ambulance. And for fiscal year 22-23, we were right at 5 minutes and 44 seconds. I'm happy to report to you this year we got our evaluation back from ISO, where we again received an ISO of 2, which is a very good rating. I don't know how familiar you are with the ISO ratings, but they go from 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, 1 being the best. We're rated at a 2 and a 2Y, and we're striving for an ISO rating of 1. Future growth, we've got Station 46 down in the Finney area. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It's directly across from the State Farm building. They have cleared the ground, and we're starting, or going to be starting construction in the near future. Station 48, they're moving along quite fast on that one. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's right here off 470, but they're moving along very quickly on that one. And then we've got Station 49, which will be on 470, just this side of the turnpike. And for the future of the Villages Fire Department, the Villages continues to grow at a rapid pace, and we're going to grow synonymously with the community and the population for the service demands and responses to continue. We're going to continue to increase that. We'll uphold our commitment to the community and public to serve and have served for over the past 20 years. This year will be 25. With that, myself and Mr. Blocker are going to entertain any questions regarding either the transport, which I have Chief Wallen here for, the dependent district, and or anything about the department. Yes, ma'am. The methodology we are currently using, or we're trying to keep up with, as the community grows, the rec center, and then they start building the homes. Is there an exact number of how many homes sold in that area that we turn it on? No, we don't have an exact number, but as soon as the service demands start increasing and we see calls in that area, then we bring up units in that area. Does that answer? Okay.
I live between 44 and 466A.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have, 2 stations over there, the one on Morris and the one on Buena Vista.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just curious, is there a mile distance between stations, or is it population? And just curious, how many more they're projecting based on how the Villages has grown, or can't you project that at this time?
We do project it. With our ISO rating, we keep stations within 5 miles of each other. So, like I said, we'll keep it within 5 miles. That's kind of how we plan them out. And then as the calls start increasing in that area is when we'll start staffing and bringing up units in that area.
One more thing. I've driven down here a zillion times.
Yes, ma'am.
And coming down, passing Sandalwood and Continental on our right.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going, are those guys covered by us, the Villages,
yes,
or by
they're,
Sumter County?
They're a contracted area. We cover the
You
Continental
do? Okay,
Country
just
Club.
curious who
Yes,
covered
ma'am.
them.
Over here. Have an EMS response question. If you get a 911 medical emergency call, you arrive at the residence, the front door is locked and no one responds. What protocol do you follow? How do you handle that?
We handle it in a couple different ways. Each situation's kind of unique. Number one, where did we get the call from? Is it somebody inside the house, or is it a third party, daughter, son, something calling? We look into that. We look at, is there a vehicle in the driveway? We talk to whoever we got the call from. Should the car be there? Should they not be? We check with neighbors. We try to check the house. Obviously, if we see somebody in the house through a window or something and they can't get to the door and no neighbors in the area have keys, then we force entry. Yes, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. I ran a multi-hospital system. We did air medical and ground transport. The notion that it takes 25 minutes in the hospital to transfer from the ambulance to the hospital is incredible to me, and not incredible from a good standpoint. That it was 40 minutes is unacceptable, obviously. That it's 25 minutes in terms of a care standpoint, I think ought to be pursued with the university and the medical centers. It's, again, just unacceptable, should be highlighted, and something that the community puts efforts to change.
Yes, sir.
Then I have a question, if I might, and the question is, we talked about, was it 14 or 16 million dollars, 15 million dollars cut in budget?
Yes, sir.
Was that a cut in the budget or a cut in the proposed budget?
It was in the proposed budget.
Yeah, so it was not a cut necessarily, but it was an effort, this is what we need or want for the future, and it was not approved at that level, but it was not a cut to the budget.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
No question, but I've got a comment.
Yes, sir.
Huge kudos for running 100% ALS. That is huge for the people in Sumter County. Thank you for doing that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And we couldn't have done it without the district leadership, without the admin staff, and more importantly, and the biggest thing is the firefighters that are out there that are providing the service. It's an amazing team.
I got a question about the AED devices going out in the neighborhood. How is that going with y'all? How does it help? Could you explain that to the folks?
The AED in our community is second to none. It's amazing. We have had very, very high results from it. It's that quick getting to the patient and getting that AED on. It helps tremendously when it's a neighbor that's right there. Yeah, we've got a 7-minute response time. Maybe for a fire truck we can get it there in 5.5 minutes, but we can't get there as fast as that neighbor can. So it's a very big benefit.
So I have a question about, so I told someone I was coming to the meeting, and I said that there was already some commissioners that were elected for the new board, or the VPSD, whatever. And they said, well, we haven't voted on it, because the last vote for a private village's fire department got turned down. And I said, I don't know, I'm confused
So
about
that was for the independent district. This is the dependent district, which was formed by the county commissioners through an ordinance.
So
and through the ordinance, then the first set of board members were voted on through the county commission.
So will it be the independent fire district?
Yes, sir. If the question, there's 2 of them that are up for election in 2024. Is that your question?
No, I guess, we voted on whether or not to have an independent fire district, and I thought the vote was no, and then now it seems like it's yes.
It was no for the independent district.
Okay.
And then the Board of County Commissioners, through an ordinance, established a dependent district.
Oh,
and
I
through
see.
the dependent district, the board members were voted on and appointed for the first.
So then there will be a vote maybe at some point to make it an independent district?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
No more.
No, ma'am. We will be with the dependent district.
Okay. And I was just wondering when they, like up north I'm from Virginia. Up north, like if they were going to build a fire station, they get a 30-year bond. Or a certain amount of the houses and the businesses, a certain amount of the cost goes towards building new fire stations, new schools, new police stations. Does any of the money go to the fire department from building all these houses?
Mr. Blocker, can you touch on
So if you're referring to a impact fee, our ordinance does not reference us having the ability to do an impact fee. But when we do our assessment methodology, we look at essentially 5 years and see what the needs are, operational, capital, and then we take that into account when we're looking at presenting that information to the board for the assessments.
So the bond does not go towards.
We do have the ability to bond, but in this case, we have not even broached that subject yet. We're so new in the infancy of creating this new dependent district, but your current bond, if that's what you're referencing,
Yes.
does not pay for any of that. No, ma'am.
It just seems like if you're going to build, you know, a $50 million fire station, maybe some of the money could be put in a bond, so not paying for it all
We
right
could issue
now.
a bond for the dependent district, but we haven't even gotten to that point where we even need to, and it wouldn't be 50 million. A fire station doesn't cost 50 million, so.
Okay.
I'm sure these guys would love a $50 million fire station, but it won't cost that much.
It's a resort.
Yeah.
I might be wrong on this. This is going back to the fire department. When a call goes in and I see an ambulance and a fire truck going to a house and it's a medical issue, why does the fire truck go if we have the ambulances now with EMTs and qualified people?
Response time. The fire trucks can do anything the ambulance can do except transport you. For some reason, the fire chief gets really upset when you put a patient on top of a fire truck. So, but it's to get that response to you as fast as possible. Like I said, every fire apparatus we have is an ALS, Advanced Life Support Unit, so we can do anything that the ambulance can do except transport you.
So, okay. Would that mean that one or the other is going to arrive, or could both arrive?
Both could arrive.
They both should
yes,
or could?
Depending on what the call is. I mean, if it's somebody that tripped or something, you may get a fire truck because it's a lift assist. If you get somebody that tripped and they've broken their leg or something, then you may get both. And you may get that fire truck because that ambulance is, like Chief Wannen said, clearing the hospital or something like that. So we get that ALS care to you as fast as possible, and then it'll be followed up if you need to be transported with an ambulance.
I've heard during the presentation here and also in things I've read over the past year or so, references to the villagers saying that they wanted a premier level of service. But I don't know what that means. Are we asking for something better than what most
we want to provide you
urban
that
areas
premier
have? Can you explain that?
We want to provide you that premier service, being the response times that we're talking about, getting you care, getting a fire truck to your house if it's on fire as fast as possible. Fire doubles by the minute. So whether it be fire or EMS, when we say premier, we want to give you the premier service of getting help to you as fast as possible.
I would assume everyone would want that.
Yes, sir.
Everyone, okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, and then regarding the current budget, the current expenses and so forth, do you have adequate funding now? And can we assume that as additional houses and businesses are built in the new areas that you will obtain sufficient revenue at the current rates, and in other words, that residents that are here now will not face increases to get this normal or premier level of service?
So kind of a two-part question. The first part, with the $14 million budget cut that we took, it prevented us. We had 57 new personnel. We were moving into opening stations, QRVs, that kind of stuff to bring that response time down even more. So did the $14 million budget cut, do we have sufficient funds to run the fire service right now? Yes. Were we able to progress? No. That's where we had to make those cuts from, was the new personnel and other things that we were trying to move forward to continue that premier service. Will your funds increase? We're going through that now. I can't promise you that they're going to be more than the 124, but we're working through that methodology now. Mr. Blocker can speak a little bit more on how we're going to work through it.
Thank you. Just to elaborate a little bit more, so the process that we're going through now is looking at initially starting to set up the assessment methodology and getting all the data that the assessment consultant will need. Some of that data may be budgetary needs, both operational and capital, over a period of time. 5 years is what we're working toward. Data from the property appraiser to draw down all the data they'll need. And then, of course, all this information is provided to the board, so the board can then make good, factual-based decisions on how they will, A, approve a budget, but more importantly, how they approve those assessments to pay for that budget. So, of course, each year when more houses come online, two things happen. You obtain more dollars, right? But you also have more expenses because we got to provide those services to more people. So we continually look each year of the operations and the capital needs with our board, and then the board will have to make decisions based on information that we provide to how they want to fund them through that assessment methodology.
Okay, if I may make a couple statements here. Kudos to what you've done. It's 10 times, 100 times better than it was prior to COVID. You know, prior to COVID, there were 7 ambulances for the entire Sumter County area. Myself and a retired fire chief from New Hampshire met with 3 commissioners, and those 3 commissioners at the time, they're present in this room today. And unfortunately, we had neighbors that almost died because of the service level that was given by AMR. And I don't believe that there's anybody that will fault the service of what's being done today, especially when it comes to a loved one. I think the concern and the questions that are going to be asked now and why the independent fire district did not pass, there were too many unanswered hypothetical situations of, yeah, we're going to do it, and don't worry about what it's going to cost. I think the situation has come to head that, yes, we'll pay for the fire service that's needed, but we also want the commercial and industrial businesses that partake in the same service to pay their equal share. And I think you folks need to realize that this community, and as we keep building south of 44, are taking a new look at expenses and what it's going to cost. And to put in this new resolution that we can't have impact fees, I think the next thing is we need to find out how the population can change that around and have a vote of the people of whether they want impact fees as the villages expands, and not just leave it to the developer or the district board to say we don't want impact fees. Okay, and one thing that has not in any of the presentations that have been put before the public addressed one major issue. The fees that are, you know, we had a great fire department prior to you taking over transport. And the fire vehicles responded to emergency calls, and AMR did the transport. So that was paid for under the fees that we had at the time. The only additional fees that we've had after the transport issue is the new ambulances and the staffing for those ambulances. But the thing is, there's also a revenue stream for that. You bill the patient that you're dealing with through Medicare or their insurance program. And in most instances, they have a copay. So that revenue comes back to the villages, and that's not being reflected in your financial issues. And that
you
needs
may comment on that?
Sure.
Okay, so first thing, ambulance transport is not part of the assessment for fire MSBU. So you take that out of the equation. All the revenue, all the expenses associated with ambulance transport does not have any bearing on the fire assessment. So that clears up that misnomer. Oh, sorry. So that clears that up. So all that ambulance transport revenue, whether it be from ambulance transport from Medicare or any other type of funding we get, does not have any effect on the MSBU for fire and EMS transport separate. So we don't have to worry about that one. That one's out of the picture. Fire assessment has to do with fire and EMS, and that's how the assessment methodology will be built. You carve out all the expenses associated with ambulance transport, and then what's left over, you look at what the assessment's going to be for the fire and EMS.
But that is still a revenue stream coming in.
That's correct. Two different things. Ambulance transport separate than what the fire MSB will be.
And the services that they provide for
That is
the
correct.
medical.
All the expenses associated with that.
Okay.
So the other thing I wanted to clear up too is you made a comment earlier when we did the independent district that we could not tell people. I think we set up a whole section of computers that gave you a pretty good picture of what those costs would be. The question was, we could not answer certain questions on what the ad valorem tax rate was going to be lowered. So I just want to make sure we clear that up for everybody. It wasn't that we weren't giving you all the information. We gave you all the information we could. So let's just make sure that was clear.
But it was somewhat premature because we didn't know what our costs were. I think in order for this dependent fire district to properly work, there has to be good transparency on all the costs and all the revenue coming in, and especially when it goes to further growth in the villages.
Please attend the board meetings.
I attend many of them.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question. Speaking as Dan, resident from the villages. Your presentation, you showed the growth of new fire stations south of 44 and some of the ones under construction and projections of future stations. Kind of reminded me, I grew up in Michigan and in Sterling Heights in a very commercial district. They built a fire station and they went to back up the hook and ladder truck and it didn't fit. So that brought me to this question. Your presentation pretty much addressed the residential side, and we didn't talk too much about the commercial side. And I noticed there are certain stations that hook and ladders. Now, do all the stations in the future, will they have hook and ladder also per station, or is that just certain stations? And as we know, projected growth doesn't always happen that way. And south of 44, if they put a multiple story building up, that would require a hook and ladder station and special chemicals for industrial type fires. Could you address that, please?
Yes, sir. As far as ladder trucks, it will depend on several factors. Number one is the commercial area. Number two is the multi-story buildings that you're talking about. Our current ladder truck, closest ladder truck is Station 45 here in Brownwood. Station 48 will have an engine, and then Station 49, which is going to have a heavy commercial area, it will have, at the beginning, it will have a engine, and then within a year or two, we're going to put a ladder truck there. And that's also to assist with the ISO rating. So to answer your question, no, every single station does not have a ladder truck. It's based on ISO and whatever's in that area.
So if a commercial building went up and you had a regular station, could you add on if you needed a hook and ladder truck there, or just built, you know?
If we need it, yes. We make sure, to answer that question, we make sure that every station that we build will accommodate the largest truck that we would ever need. And that happens to be, as you're speaking about, a ladder truck or a tower truck.
Quick question. Just first of all, again, nice job on the improvements on the transport as well as the response times. What are your goals for this next year on both those categories?
Our next year, we've got a lot of goals in in the future coming, the biggest one is keeping up with the demand, the service demand, keeping the ambulances coming in. We've got Station 46, Station 48, so our goals are to get those open and get those staffed towards the end of this coming year. And then, like I was speaking, we have Station 49. So our goals are to continue the service, to get this dependent district stood up, and get the funding and the budget in place that we need to further progress. Like I said, we had to remove 57 personnel that we were trying to expand. One of the other things is we had to take a ladder truck out of service to staff Station 48. So one of the goals in the future will be to bring that truck back up also. Yes, sir.
So,
sorry.
Sorry about that. I have another question. So we're part of Sumter County. Then the Villages District is part of Sumter County.
Yes, ma'am.
Fire. So, but they call themselves the Villages, but like Marion, Lake, Wildwood, they're all part, they're not necessarily part of Sumter County. So do they get paid, do you get paid extra for mutual aid if you get a call to, like by Nancy Lopez, or how does that work?
Yes, we have interlocal agreements with Lady Lake, Leesburg, Lake County, Marion County. We have a mutual aid agreement with them.
Okay. And do you charge for fire calls?
No, ma'am.
No.
Are you talking like per fire call, if a fire truck, if you call for a fire truck to come to your house? Is that what you're?
Like if you had a fire, or then if you had to pick up someone off the floor, I guess, either way.
No, ma'am, we do not. Yes.
Just to clarify, the interlocals are with Lady Lake, Fruitland Park, Lake County, and Leesburg, and they pay a fire assessment fee back to us to provide that service. So.
Okay. This morning I looked at the website for the fire department on District Gov. This morning I looked at the website for the fire department on the District Gov website. And the last monthly report is dated June of last year. I'm just wondering when things are going to get up to date, including the email addresses of the members of the new board, so that the public can contact them, and minutes of the December 15th meeting, when that is all going to be available on the website.
They are updating the website as we speak. I believe the launch date for the new website.
So yes, you recognize an important factor that Chief Twiss has to get his website up to date. Good point. As far as the dependent district, that website is being created now, that link. So when the board meeting meets in February, they will approve those minutes and they'll be posted.
Yes, sir.
No.
Wait.
Right here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've got a quick question for you. Regarding the impact fees, it doesn't make any sense to me that you guys say that impact fees aren't a possibility. I mean, if you look at the growth that we have in this area, impact fees are required in order to keep up. And I would encourage you to look around at some of the other counties and what they do. As an example, if you look at Orange County, which is a high growth county, they have a very broken down impact fee schedule for everything. And you look at Sumter County, we've got nothing.
So that would, the key word is what you just mentioned there is Sumter County. So that would be a question you would go to your Sumter County Board of County Commissioners and have that conversation. We don't do fire impact fees.
Well, that's, I mean, in my mind, that's not an acceptable answer. I mean, I can go to the BOCC and voice my opinion about that, but
And that's where you would need to go.
Okay, that's what. When is the next meeting for the dependent district?
February 5th. Yeah, February 7th, 1
in
o'clock.
my mind, the board for the new district, that should be like #1 priority for that board, is to put that impact fee in place.
Okay, that board doesn't have anything to do with the impact fees. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, but they can make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners.
Just like everybody in this room can too.
Two questions. First, to follow up on that, it sounds like the dependent district will determine what their budget request is, but not determine the mechanism or the means by which that money is obtained. Is that correct?
No, to the first question, yes, they will determine the budget request of Sumter County has to be submitted by July 15th. So that's the first thing, yes. Second, the board, the dependent district board, will have the ability to do the fire assessment, right? So they're going to go through this methodology process where the consultant will present all this information to them. So they will approve that methodology that will determine how much money they'll raise from the fire assessment. And then in the ordinance, they also have the ability to raise up to 0.75 mils.
So the dependent district is going to make those decisions?
That is correct.
Not the BOCC?
The BOCC would be presented the budget on by July 15th.
And why are we doing an assessment when one was already done, contracted out by Sumter County a year ago or something?
The fire assessment that
the study.
The study that was already done, that was just for the Sumter County area. So we're going to do our own assessment based on the area within the dependent district, which is the villages, service area within the villages.
How much is that study going to cost?
I think the agreement was for approximately, don't quote me on that, it was done at the board, about $55,000.
Okay. All right, my other question is going back to someone else asked earlier about the AED, which we all think those are really beneficial things, but I don't know, do we know that? You answered the question and made it sound like yes, it definitely is, but is there any quantitative data showing that clinical outcome measures are in fact improved as a result of that? And then less important what it costs, but I'm just curious, what is your estimate of how much the AED program is costing the residents in the villages?
Well, I'll answer half of that as to the quantitative measurements that we actually do for how effective essentially our whole service is. We actually run data all the time. The state of Florida has a program called Biospatial. Biospatial analyzes all of our data and actually puts it in measurable metrics, us against the state of Florida and against the nation. When it comes to the AEDs, because you have so many AEDs in the community and your response times are so good, we have a much higher incident ability to actually get people back than other areas that have longer response times and no AED programs. So when we compare ourselves to the state, our actual rates of resuscitation are just under twice what everybody else is, but we're actually taking it a step further. It's only one piece of the puzzle. So you have the response with the medicine, you have the electricity for when you have a heart attack, but the other component is the brain. The state of Florida just issued us a grant, every EMS agency a grant. For our portion of it was $86,000 to put a device on all of our ambulances called an EleGuard, which actually works at saving brain. So the device essentially gets better blood flow. So now you're taking your level of service that not only do you have that rapid first response with this incredible AED program that we have out there, we also have quick response, more advanced care, drugs, and now through the help of the state grant that doesn't cost you anything, another device on the truck to actually help save the brain. And we call it neuroprotective CPR, and that's one of the projects I'm working on right now, and they'll be on the trucks in a month. So one of my friends who actually came from Hernando County and came up to work for the Villages, he can't believe how many patients we resuscitate compared to where we came from. His last 2 patients that he had that were in cardiac arrest walked out of the hospital with no neuro deficits at all. And working in healthcare, you know how incredible that is. When nationwide, when you survive a cardiac arrest, only 8% of the ones that we resuscitate walk out of the hospital. So that goes towards this level of service and what that premier service and what we were talking about. It's just the one piece of the puzzle, and that's the service you have right now, and we're continuing to make it better. So as for the funding, that would be Chief Twiss.
As far as the AED and cost, the AED community that we currently have, the way that was formed is as a neighborhood wanted to start an AED in their community, they would end up purchasing the AED, and then we would maintain pads, anything like that if it was used. There's also Sumter County who has the AED program that they've launched, and depending on the area, the population, it has to be an AED that's publicly accessible, not on the side of somebody's house, like at the end of a cul-de-sac on a post. As long as it's publicly accessible, they will provide the AED, the maintenance, and the training to go along with it. Does that answer your question? They're not taking over all the cost. As new communities come online, they will provide a AED and the maintenance of it, the replacement pads, and the training of it. But we still have our AED program also. It's just our AED program, like it will be in a neighborhood where the community has come together, purchased the AED, and it's on the side of somebody's house, to where with Sumter counties, it has to be publicly accessible, unlocked, at the end of a cul-de-sac where the mailbox is, something like that. I don't have that information with me, but if you want to stop by the office, I will be more than happy. What's that? Well, for the ready alert, a little. And that's in his neighborhood. If you want the cost overall, like he's talking about for the ready alert, we can get you that information for the entire AD community. Right, but to what Cliff's saying, yeah, once the AD is purchased, there's just the cost of pads and stuff for that we provide. But I do not. Correct. I just don't have that number with me. Cliff is very well versed on this. Hang on a second. Cliff's getting in trouble by somebody.
Yeah, boss. Use
The
microphone.
batteries cost $235 if they go dead within 4 years because they all have a date on them. Ready Alert or Cardiac Science replace them for free. My program has been in existence for 12 years, and I've bought one battery.
Okay, I think we have time for a couple more questions. And
the question has to do with the operations. So We ran an ambulance service for a geographic area. It included several cities. In the cities, the fire departments also responded along with our ambulances. We say that we want to provide a premier service by having both the ambulance and the rescue squad. Now that happens in our case sometimes and then not in others. So we began to coordinate with the city. When was it important for them to respond as well? They ran the rescue from the fire department. We ran the ambulance service. So through better use of dispatch by somebody in the ambulance saying, we can be there in 3 minutes, why would we have to, let me ask the question, are there places that are doing a different job or taking a different approach rather than sending 2 vehicles to coordinating through dispatch, still providing premier service, but reducing the amount of time that the fire department is away from its primary service?
We already do that. Like I was saying earlier, it depends on the type of call, what is relayed to the dispatch center. Like I said, if it's a cardiac arrest, we have 2 units go.
But your answer earlier was we still send 2 vehicles. We still send 2 vehicles. My question is, through the use of dispatch and all the technology we have available, could we not send 2 vehicles because we do a better job of dispatch and a better job of the ambulance saying, we'll be there in 3 minutes?
So,
and again, when we ran this service, we have rescue squad, and then we have the ambulance, and then the rescue squad comes from the fire department in the city. If you are 10 feet away in a township, that didn't happen. Did the service change? Did we provide a lower level of service? Our ambulance would tell you not so. The rescue squad was not required in most cases, nor would have provided a higher level of service. My question is, have you looked at coordinating through dispatch so that you don't send to every call both an ambulance and a rescue squad?
We currently are doing that, and I apologize if you took my answer that every single call 2 units go to. That is not what I meant to convey. It just depends on the type of call. It may be a call where through dispatch we have been able to indicate that it was a fall with no injuries. At that point, we will have a fire truck go out and as a lift assist. If it relays through dispatch that it was a fall and there's an injury, we will have an ambulance go out. However, if that ambulance is a distance away, we will send a fire apparatus to get that ALS care to them. I don't have that data with me, but if you'd like to come by the office, we can get that for you. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, we really got to wrap it up. So I want to thank you guys. This was a great presentation. There was a lot of great information.
Thank you very much for inviting us. We appreciate it.
Oh, I'm going to have you back again because this is an ongoing thing and you guys do a great job. We got the best fire department in the whole state of Florida, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you.
I want to just say one thing. Our next meeting, which is on, I believe, the 15th of January at Laurel Manor, we'll have Dr. Craig Curtis, who's an Alzheimer research doctor, who's got a really interesting presentation that I have seen before. You might want to see it. That's at Laurel Manor. Pardon? 16th, okay. January 16th. And we have donuts in the back and we have coffee over here. And thank you guys for coming. Hope to see you next time. Thank you.
I might be Polish, but I may send it to you. I don't knock my ear. These guys have, I said my prayers a day. Because it could come anytime. Although they're, I think you probably heard of my experience. I drove myself down to the UF on it as well. And I had what they call a broken heart attack. So my arteries are all put down the inside of those stuff. So it took 45 minutes. If I knew that, even if I'm half dying, I would have called 911. But I realized I found out all these individual hospitals were off the money. They had contact. They called the ambulance AMR all the way from Gainesville, 3 towns away. So obviously, you know, you can do all you want, but if somebody goes to that U of F facility, they have a contract with AMR, and even though AMR covers our outside the villages, the only one that was available was way in the frickin' college town, you know. So that's something that I don't know, how you. Then, like I said, I would have gotten out, known what I know now. I would have dialed out on the city by my ass up.
Yes, sir.